So I wanted to share with you 3 steps, or at least these were 3 steps that Neville Goddard originally shared in one of his lectures, although I hope you can forgive me. I have been trying to figure out which lecture it actually was. I couldn't find it right away, so because I had to jot it down for myself. But I forgot apparently to say what lecture it was from, but it was from Neville Goddard. And I think it will be interesting to share this with you today, because the more I meditate on this, and the more awesome it becomes, man. And like, seriously, there's some powerful stuff, because Neville simply said that in order to understand his teachings, you have to understand that it begins with self-observation. Secondly, it asks, what do you want? And then it teaches detachment from all negative states and attachment to your aim. Now he went on to say this last state, attachment to your aim, is accomplished by frequently assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Now, the one point that I found really interesting about these steps was one part where he actually described that if you define your aim, for example, as noble, generous, secure, a kindly individual, knowing that all things are states of consciousness, you can easily tell whether you are faithful to your aim in life by watching your reactions to the daily events of life. Now that right there is really, really powerful. And many years ago when I first read this stuff, it probably didn't dawn on me right away. I could only sense, like probably many of you have when you study Neville's work, there's something about it that really kind of appeals to the imagination, or at least dares you to consider that there might be more possible for you than you ever realized. But this point that he made, that we have to watch our reactions to the daily events of life. Now this is actually incredibly powerful, and yet at the same time incredibly subtle. Because I wrote for myself this kind of point, this clarification, that if I feel bad, it reveals the state of consciousness from which I operate. If I feel indifferent about the evidence of my senses and have total peaceful conviction that my dream will come to pass as I do whatever I feel compelled to do along the way, well, then it will happen. That is part of the subtle secret of consciousness. So what I meant by that in my own words is that I realized that if I look at my physical world, many times without us actually consciously being aware, we might be in a very negative state of mind concerning things as they are. So we have dreams, we have goals that we work on, but then when we look at the evidence of our senses, right, we might see total physical contradictions. Like there might be zero proof or any clear evidence that seems to indicate that we are actually on our way to realizing our objective. And so what happens for most people is that they feel bad about that. The evidence of their senses is controlling their state of mind. So therefore I wrote, if I feel bad, it reveals the state of consciousness from which I operate. Because if I am truly full of the wish fulfilled, if I truly am in harmony with my dream and live from the assumption as if it already occurred, then I should not be feeling bad ever when I look at my physical world. So for me, I can look at my physical world, certain things that I still want to achieve, and then my senses tell me, yeah, you don't have it, or well, it's probably gonna take a long time, or well, it might be very tricky to pull this off, or all these weird reasons, right? But it also dawns on me that, hey, if that happens with me from now on, I will also keep in mind that it's an indication of what state of consciousness I am in. Because if I truly live from the wish fulfilled, I can indeed look at my physical world, and even though it doesn't show me proof that my dream has already manifested, for example, I will still have peaceful conviction within my entire being that my dream will come to pass as I do whatever I feel compelled to do along the way, because then it will happen. I mean, I've tried this before in the past with projects of mine that seemed impossible at first for me to realize, but I was so convinced and like full of this feeling of wanting to win, of feeling I could do this. I could sense, like with my entire being, I could do this. And then indeed over time it did happen. I did achieve certain goals that nobody in my personal life has ever achieved. That's pretty cool, you know. I mean, don't let it rub your ego too much, of course, but it is pretty cool to be able to achieve stuff that seemed impossible at first, but this is the way. This is what I want you to understand and start to pay attention to as well in your own life, is that how are you actually reacting to the daily events in your life? Because that is what Neville suggests we start doing, is to pay attention to how you actually react to events. Because if it's from a negative state of mind, if it's full of doubts, worries, and all the negative stuff again, well, then it's proof that you are not fully, entirely living from the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Because again, as I said, if you are doing that, the proof that you have that you're doing it is that you no longer feel any emotional response at all concerning your physical world, because you know that you're on your way to manifesting your dreams by the way you're using your imagination. That's the goal. So if you have reached that state, well, it's really good news. If you have reached that kind of attitude, well, then you probably are already well on your way of realizing all kinds of goals in your life. But I know many people are not in that state of mind yet. They might not really perceive this subtle activity of their own consciousness, and I hope that this sheds some light on the process of manifestation all over again for anyone out there that is looking for some inspiration and guidance. So I hope you understood the message that this video tried to share with you. If I condense it, well, again, just start paying attention to how you react to the daily events of your life. Is it negative? Is it positive or indifferent? Because concerning your dreams, it's vitally important to pay attention to this. Because if it's negative, if you're constantly reacting to the events in your daily life from a negative, pessimistic state, well, that can only be because you're not truly full of the feeling of your wish fulfilled. And this is absolutely liberating, man. Once this dawns upon you, man, every day becomes greater and greater. So much fun. So let us freaking do this together. We're gonna apply this towards our goals, and we're gonna start winning. And we're gonna just do it to the best of our abilities and watch what happens. You will start to actually grow towards the manifestation of your dream. I've already done this before with goals, as I said, and that's something you can do. However, as I grow older with every year, it is like it becomes clearer and clearer to me. Like, it's all these subtle activities that perhaps were happening unconsciously for me when I was younger are now becoming conscious to my awareness, where I'm like, but I see what's happening. I see now what's happening in my consciousness and what the effect it has on my physical life and the results I'm getting. And therefore, I know it can be useful to share this with you and other people, because perhaps it helps them to recognize this subtle activity within their own consciousness. Because that's the fascinating part about life, is that physically we can all look different and similar at the same time. Personality wise, we can all be totally different yet similar at the same time. And it's the same with consciousness. Actually, consciousness, you know, unless you have some sort of disability, for people in general, you know, we can all think, imagine, and feel emotions within our consciousness. And that's a process that's pretty much the same for everyone out there. So therefore, these techniques can work for anyone if they're, well, willing to try it out. So I hope you will. Come on, man. Let's win together. We're gonna make stuff happen. Here we go.